Welcome to the Gallagher Security in Focus Scoop podcast, where we dive into the world of security technology and innovation. My name is Steve Bell and I'm CTO at Gallagher Security, and I've been part of the team developing security products for over 36 years. 2023 marks 85 years for Gallagher, so in this episode we have Andrew Scothern, Chief Architect at Gallagher, and Toby Hutchings, value stream owner for the devices team. They'll be discussing this evolution of Gallagher's Command Center client and the latest advances in controller technology. We'll hear how we live up to our brand story of nobody sets a higher standard as we push the boundaries of what is possible in the security industry, constantly striving to improve and deliver on best solutions to our customers. And people are at the heart of everything we do, shows our focus on protecting our customers, their people and their assets. Join us as we explore the fascinating journey of creating smarter, more secure devices and the impact it has on the industry. So let's get started. Andrew, since I last talked to you on a podcast, you have changed your role.
So my title is Chief Architect. Previously, I sort of had that role, but it was in a bit of a part-time capacity, and I was doing the value stream lead role for our Future of Enterprise value stream. So focused very much on the future of the Command Center product. So the intention of moving me to full-time Chief Architect is to make sure that I can spend a lot more time thinking about the future of the wider product. So not just some of the cloudy or other parts of Command Center, but really thinking about how does the product translate to where it needs to be that 5 to 10 years time. So I get to work with all of our value streams and sort of think about the overarching direction that the product and the architecture of the product needs to go in.
Okay, cool. The other person we've got here today is the first time on one of my podcasts. Toby Hutchings, you're value stream owner for our devices team. Tell us a bit about your role and your team.
Yeah, sure, Steve. Yeah, I'm the value stream lead for the devices team here at Gallagher Security. In devices, we're really responsible for owning the end-to-end product lifecycle of all of our hardware, from research and development, commercialization, maintenance, through to obsolescence.
Cool. We're going to talk about 3 different areas. Each of us will lead that discussion on the areas. So I'm going to talk about the 2009 timeframe, where we were looking at a new generation of devices and a new communications bus. That's now called HBUS. Andrew, can you just give a brief overview of the topic we're going to go through with you?
So yeah, Steve, I thought we could have a bit of a conversation about what's known out in the market as our Command Center client. It was sort of a revolution we did on the client, or evolution we did on the client. It's also over 10 years ago. Why we did that, a bit of the process about how we went about it, because it sort of shows a lot about the culture of Gallagher, how we do things, which is still true today. And then a little bit of a follow-up on how we're still actually evolving that, and it's moving forward into another generation again.
Cool. And Toby, you overview what you're going to talk about later?
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Our latest Controller 7000 single door was released earlier this year. What we've done here is build a brand new platform that is a new generation of technology for all of our controllers.
Okay, so back in 2009, we were in a state where we had a generation of hardware that was reasonably old. It was around from the early 2000s, and the communications it had was pretty slow. It was good when the generation came to market, but wasn't so good around about 2009 with all the things we'd learned about security in the meantime. We've got a bunch of really, really talented people on the team, and we had been discussing what we might like to do for a new generation of device communications. We put in place a process where we got all the team to do a presentation of what they thought would be great. Some really good things came out, and through that process it was reasonably iterative, but the thing that excited me so much about it was that we ended up with something that none of us at the start of the process ever imagined we'd end up with.
Oh, I'll just jump in while you're thinking, Steve. Like my memories, because I had the privilege of being involved in those conversations as well. One of the things that still stands out to me today was how, there was just so much respect within the rooms of everyone's opinion, and I think that's one of the things that we've been very good at over the years, where we allow everyone gets to have their voice, which is where some of those surprising things come out of. It helps to have a whole bunch of really smart people as well. But yeah, that was the thing for me, because I remember when some of the concepts which would eventually became HBUS first got discussed, there was a sort of a little bit of like, oh, hang on, that's not what we were talking about. But everyone listened respectfully. The conversations were allowed space to happen, and yeah, we ended up with a fantastic solution.
What we came up with wasn't easy to get to market. We were doing stuff that probably no one had attempted before. We wanted to be able to communicate really quickly, to be able to have rich communications and rich user interface on the keypad reader. We wanted every single piece of firmware in our devices to be able to be upgradable through the network over HBUS. So yeah, we ended up with 1 megabit per second RS485 speed, and some of that was challenging some of the technologies that were there at the time. The chips have moved along a lot better now too. That's pretty old hat now. You can definitely go at that sort of speed. We wanted to get rid of pooled communication, that whole thing of giving each device its chance to talk on the bus, but it had to wait until it was its turn to talk. That was something that we had always done in the past, but has issues, whereas anti-collision and devices get on the bus as soon as they can. We wanted to make this bus secure enough for some of the government work that we started getting into, for standards that aren't generally published publicly. Our architect on our devices designed all the security according to NIST standards.
And it's hard to overstate how important that ability to do those upgrades to the edge devices was, so that we knew that was going to be really important. We knew that was going to allow us to continue to innovate on those devices without the pain that people had to experience going around and visiting each device to upgrade it. So it gave us a bunch of security, but it also gave us a huge amount of control over the ecosystem and the ability to actually innovate without pain on the customer side, and helps with that ability to provide a lifetime support for these devices, where we can react to things that happen in market by upgrading the firmware.
Yeah, and I guess a really good example of that is just recently we've done something for one of our customers has funded us to do some work that they wanted to change the access granted tune on the reader. When somebody got access through the door, they wanted to put their own image on the screen. That was all possible in that ecosystem, and with the ability to just download new firmware to make new things happen.
Yeah, well, I think the thing that strikes me is the ability to make these devices smart, to be able to enhance them over their lifespan, deploy software seamlessly. Something that is quite unique, and what I've personally seen is customers really surprised on how easy it is. We hear about a lot of pain, a lot of cost, a lot of planning that would have to go in, to go physically to the reader for configuration, for firmware upgrades, and this allowed us to really keep the cybersecurity current for these devices. Ultimately, we're looking at customers can keep their devices up to date, secure, as well as being able to get those features over the lifespan of those smart devices.
OSDP is absolutely valuable, and we want to be open where it matters to give customers that choice. But we believe that if you are willing to go with our readers, then we can provide the greatest possible experience across the whole system by using our readers and HBUS, and we can do things that we'd never be able to do if we were using OSDP. So it comes back to, yes, customers should absolutely have choice, and they should be able to do that. But our commitment is, when you use these platforms, that allows us to provide an even greater experience.
So, Andrew, you're going to talk about the upgrade to our workstation environment to make the experience for our operators way better.
You guys interrupt me when I go into too much detail because I'm too excited about it. So I might nerd out, so apologies everyone listening if I get into too much details. Right, so what we're talking about here is the command center client, and yeah, this was a while ago, but I think it's a really good example of the type of process that we go through, the type of steps we take. It's that forward-looking aspect to the product development that we always do a lot of. We're not just trying to solve today's problems, we're trying to think, well, how things might adapt and how do we create some flexibility in our solution so that we can adapt to the future. So this is more than 10 years ago, but when we first put out the command center client, at that point we had what is known as the config client. Currently it was a client that was architected more than 20 years ago. There are a few immediate challenges to it, and we knew there were challenges there that were purely technology based. So we could have just gone, right, well, we're going to update it and go to a newer technology. Maybe we could have gone web or some other sort of technology, but just take what we had. No one was actively complaining about what we had, and just done a new technology which made it easier to deploy. Instead, we spent a significant amount of time actually going out into market. We sat with control rooms, we visited our channel partners and saw how they installed the product. We talked to people about what they would also like to be able to do. And, we did a few road trips where we went around various regions, just seeing firsthand how people were using what we already had. And we really used that information combined with our, understanding of the technical capabilities that were holding us back as inputs into the development of our client. So again, as in a very sort of design sprints, you'd call them today, approach of actually going, okay, well, these are the options that we've got. What's stopping us from achieving them? Can we get some feedback from customers and markets about whether we're heading in the right direction before we even write a line of code? Yes, do all those things. And then work out what is the technology knowledge gaps that we've got, what are the things that we are not confident about, and we'll go through a process of resolving those to make sure that what we're going to produce is really going to deliver that customer value that we think it was. And so we went through very much a process like that. We determined that lots of people were moving towards some sort of PSIM type systems. They wanted more situational awareness of the site beyond just command center. And we thought, well, how might we do that without making it so complicated that you need to involve a developer every time you install a system? So we sort of talked about this a lot. We ended up saying command center was our PSIM light. So PSIM, for anyone who's not familiar with, is those overarching physical security, I can't remember what the I stands for. Is it information management?
Yeah,
basically your console, which looks at all your systems and brings an overarching view together, so I can just look at this one pane of glass and get a feel for what's going on my site. We decided we didn't want to go the whole way down there, because going the whole way would mean a lot of configuration complexity for customers, and our goal was to make it easy for the operators. So we sort of decided, hey, we want to see if we can do 20% of the effort for 80% of the value. And that's sort of where we led to with Command Center Client and the concept of viewers and tiles, where you could configure the experience an individual operator sees depending on what their role is. And you can control what they see, you control how it's laid out, you can allow it to take advantage of multiple monitors and all that sort of thing. So probably the thing that stands out for me, though, was the process we went through. So we were actively trying to take the best of other types of UIs and other domains and bring it together and trying to take something that was really complicated and make it as simple as we could for an individual operator who was using it. And that really was the threshold. But as part of that, we were thinking, how do we build this in a way so what we build now will be extensible for things we can't even imagine in the future? And really that was one of those keys, like the whole viewer tile, what you would call a UI composition model, really allows you to then add new things without having to worry about whether that's going to break something that you've already got.
So the test of something like that, doing a new architecture, is how much you've extended it over time. So what are some of the key things that we've been able to do since that this platform enabled?
So we have been able to add new types of tiles, which we've been able to add independently. That's really easy to add different type of camera integrations into that space. We added a whole reporting infrastructure, again using a very similar model where we're trying to make it not 100% of the complexity of a full reporting solution, but 80% of it for 20% of the complexity. We're not trying to solve everything. If you have really complex reporting needs, you should use a dedicated reporting system, but we think actually most of the time we can give you what you need in a much simpler to configure way. So we did that reporting, and then we were able to do things like, well, hang on, we've got these reports, we've created them to be relatively generic, and they've got these filter criteria. We can now do things like, if you click on this item, you can find reports that would use this item type as a filter, and now I can just, from the site plan, I want to run this report on this item. And so we're able to do things like that, which really extend the capability of the client without you now having to go, right, I can look here, and then I've got to go over to report, then I've got to add this item to this report and add it. So simple things really, but it's sort of the overarching architecture that enables that.
One of the things that I always enjoyed was the fact that when we created some tiles so that when they wanted to have a view of card holders, they could put a little live event viewer on a card holder showing all the events happening on that. That was just sort of unthinkable with our previous generation, and it was filtered for that. So all those little things I think were awesome and hopefully loved by our customers too. Yeah. That really gave me a great feeling that we're doing something really good.
Yeah, and even we created what we called the URL tile, which effectively lets you put a web browser in a tile. So if there's a particular website, say you're monitoring a fence line in your alarm viewers and you want to have the weather report from a particular region appearing inside the viewer. When I click on this alarm, I can now have a tile showing a meteorological site that's saying, oh, there's actually a storm going on over there. Maybe that's the reason there's alarms on this fence. So it's those little things. How do you make these things extensible so that, again, we never thought of those tiles to begin with, but we could easily add them later and it just fits into the infrastructure.
The other big thing that we've done in there is totally rewrite our site plans, our maps, to fit in with better and be quite competitive with some of the very graphically rich systems around.
Because we certainly heard plenty of times when we first created this, why didn't you just do a web client at the time? Again, there's an element of when we did it, which was before web technologies were as rich as they are today. Even now, there are still restrictions when you create a web client. You're sort of constrained to the browser as to how that operates. Each browser tab is completely independent of the tab. They don't know anything about each other. If you want to make the most of multiple monitors, it's harder to do that with the browser. You can separate them, but it doesn't remember where they were the next time you logged in or anything like that. So there are a bunch of things where the decision is still standing true today that actually it was good to have that desktop app and that fine-grained control over where you deploy something, especially in those control room situations, which was where site plans is just a crucial part of the operator experience in those environments. So we originally just allowed you to bring through existing site plans, and then we were able to go, hey, actually, and now we're going to create a new type of tile, which is a new site plan. So you can still see the old ones, and now you can see these new ones with enhanced functionality. So it creates a nice, I guess, evolution rather than revolution at that point, where you can slowly enhance parts of the product without having to change the entire client.
From time to time, we have a particular vertical or two that creates some challenge of functionality that they need. Can you think of any particular verticals that actually made a big impact on the way we developed this new client?
So certainly from the alarm point of view, it was our bigger multi-site type customers, because they're the ones we start to get a bunch of things like controlled challenge, where you're trying to bring a lot of information to an operator to make a decision quickly. So we talked with a lot of the mine sites. They had a bunch of guardhouse type controls, care a lot about video, they care a lot about controlled challenge type scenarios, intercoms. There's a whole bunch of viewers came from the more higher end of town, but having done them for those more complex customers, they're then available relatively simply for anyone who wants to use those. And we have seen plenty of times where a feature we created ends up getting used for something not what we imagined at all. Like I can think of all these times in the past where we had our elevator solution end up getting used for like lockers or something weird and wonderful like that. It's really interesting to see how it ends up being used, because inevitably that means there's some sort of unmet need there.
And I know we had some universities at enrolment time, they required all the new students to turn up face-to-face, take their photo and print them a card. They were creating huge peak loads and making sure that we could get that system performing really, really well. They would maybe roll out an extra 20 workstations just for that enrolment process.
That project spawned a whole bunch of internal innovation that wasn't specifically about the product, but which has stood us in really good stead today. So actually out of that product came our entire automation framework. So we said we were building this new client. As part of that, we want to try and have as much automated test cover over this client so that we can more comfortably make changes to it without and know for sure we haven't broken anything. So that was the very beginnings of us building a test automation framework, which has stood the test of time through to today, where we have an automation environment where we can literally run up, I can't remember the last count, it's something like 800 or 1,000 machines which run 30,000 plus automated tests every single night to ensure that we haven't accidentally broken something that we didn't mean to. And the value of that for us internally is awesome, but it's also really valuable for customers, because we can have a higher level of surety when we put something out that we haven't got something unexpected in there. It's one of those examples of innovation isn't just on the customer facing side. It's when we're looking at those projects, how do we do it more effectively to deliver a more trusted solution?
That automation framework was what allowed us to deliver more than one version a year.
Yep.
The cost of testing a whole version, doing a regression test, was just over the top.
And of course we haven't rested there. Like that client stood the test of time, I guess, because we have been able to keep adding new functionality to it, new types of viewers, new types of tiles. We haven't really had to change anything dramatically about the infrastructure. Through to today, We have released our first version of our web client for catalog management, and we're starting to explore actually with this UI composition model that we've got for the client, we can actually start to have pieces of functionality appear in there from a bunch of different locations, potentially from a cloud service if customers are willing to run it in a hybrid model, but also from different services that they might be able to run on premise that allows their system to be more scalable, more resilient, all that sort of stuff, and actually allow us to further improve the overall product experience.
Okay, so let's move on and hear from Toby about what we're doing with devices and where they're looking to the future.
Our latest Controller 7000 single door was released earlier this year. What we've done here is build a brand new platform that is new generation of technology for all of our controllers. The Controller 7000 single door is the first controller released on this platform, and there's a lot of new technology on this platform which is designed to take our product into the future and continue our rich history of protecting people and assets in some of the world's most secure environments. It was an incredibly proud moment for us to launch this amazing product. Innovating, listening to our customers, and producing products that push the boundaries is how we stand out and compete on a global scale. With the Controller 7000 platform, we took a holistic approach and a comprehensive approach to platform security, thinking about it right from the beginning of the project. We've also introduced a lot of additional computing horsepower, and that enables us to deliver new and exciting capabilities via software updates to meet our customers' needs now and into the future.
So what's new about cybersecurity for this Controller 7000?
One of our principles is that our customers' people and assets are at the heart of everything we do, and this is fundamentally about protecting our customers from the growing risk of cyber attacks. A recent report from IBM states that the global average cost of a data breach last year was 6.9 million New Zealand dollars, and that was actually $15 million for data breaches in the United States. So it is extremely important to get this right and uphold our principle that protecting our customers, people and their assets at the heart of everything we do. And this platform will be at the heart of new controller products going forward. There are really three ways that we've built cybersecurity into the heart of this new platform. The first one is hardware technology. This is the security features in the hardware itself, right down to a silicon level. The second is software. This is about the software architecture that we've introduced. And the third is a new production system for manufacturing that we've introduced for the Controller 7000 platform as well. The first technology with security at heart, hardware. The fundamental principle here is that you cannot have a secure product without secure hardware. And the security of the hardware comes from baking in security features right down to the silicon level. We built the Controller 7000 platform around two key chips, the NXP IMX8 system on chip, and the second is the NXP Edgelock Secure element. This gives us some hardware security features on this new platform, such as Trust Zone, which gives us the ability to isolate all the security processing functions from the normal application software. Secure Boot protects the software updates to the controller from tampering by hackers that may attempt to insert their own software onto the controller. Anti-rollback at the hardware level. One attack a hacker may attempt is to trick administrators into installing old versions of software, known vulnerabilities, that they can exploit onto a controller. Anti-rollback makes this impossible. Immutable identity. This is like the identity theft we have heard a lot about online these days, which is what prevents attackers from being able to clone or counterfeit authentic hardware. With the Controller 7 platform, we lock the identity into the hardware in our factory onto a chip that has the highest levels of protection. And some of the software features that we've built into the Controller 7000 platform. From the beginning, we set out to achieve a new standard encryption algorithms that we use. We base this off what is called the Commercial National Security Algorithm Suite, CNSA. This comes from the NSA in the United States and specifies a set of algorithms you can use to protect information right up to a top secret classification level. Another software feature introduced on the Controller 7000 platform is Trusted Execution Environment. This is a secure operating system that provides secure services such as secure storage, boot services, trust decision and cryptography with platform secrets.
The Trusted Execution Environment, what exactly does that do, Toby?
What we have here, Steve, basically the hardware runs two operating systems. In the Trusted Execution Environment, this is a lightweight operating system that's protected by hardware and that really provides all of the secure services to the normal operating system which is exposed to the outside world. The Trusted Execution Environment will look after secrets such as keys, cryptography, making it virtually impossible for hackers to get into those really important secret parts of the platform that you do want to protect.
And you mentioned earlier that we also have a new security chip on the board. Now, on our 6000 controller, we only put that on the high-spec version of the controller. Is that the case this time, or will we be a bit more liberal with it?
Yeah, look, we've got Edgelock secure storage chips across the full range of our controllers now. The way cyber threats are trending, we think that that level of protection is no longer just a high security level of protection, and now we're taking that and making it available across the range for all of our customers.
Right, so everything's going to be protected as much as we possibly can. So what about the factory?
Yeah, with the Controller 7000, we decided to look holistically at the security of the whole platform, which includes the production of it in our factory. This meant taking a fresh look at how our controllers get their secure identity within our factory. We've introduced brand new secure infrastructure for certificate and key production and storage. We've also put our software production onto the same infrastructure and introduced new code signing, release controls, new code audit trails, and really elevated the end-to-end security, giving customers confidence that the device is locked down, tamper-resistant, and can travel safely through the supply chain securely right up to when it's installed onto a customer site.
One other thing I'd say around the whole reinvention of the controller that we've just been through is that we've got a lot of really smart people. Inevitably, you need to go beyond just your own people to get the absolute best result. And I think it's worth calling out that for the Controller 7000, a lot of the how do we make sure that this is something that is going to stand us in good stead for that 10-year plus time frame has been partnering with various people in other regions who are experts. They live and breathe the security of hardware devices. Like, how do people attack them at a silicon level? How do they get attacked at a firmware level? And so being able to have some really good quality conversations with our side professionals, talking to them, including our hardware people and how the boards are laid out, all those things that you may not think about, has been hugely valuable to reinforce the importance of partnerships and that, like, you don't try and go it alone.
Cool. Okay. Thanks, Toby and Andrew. Look forward to having you on again in the future.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.